The sound of the air conditioner in my lawyer's office sounded like a plane engine about to crash. It was a constant, irritating hum that mixed with the metallic taste of fear in my mouth. I stared at the mahogany table in front of me. There were papers scattered about, some financial charts, and a photo of my daughter, Sophia, just 5 years old, holding a strawberry ice cream that was melting onto her little hand. On the other side of the table sat not my lawyer, but Elena, my ex-wife. She was wearing that expensive perfume I bought for our last wedding anniversary, back when I was still naive enough to believe we could save what we had. But her look had nothing familiar about it. It was cold, calculating. It was the look of someone negotiating the purchase of a used car, not the fate of a child. "Did you hear what I said, Gabriel?" Her voice cut through the silence. It had that thick Mexican accent, which I once thought was the sexiest thing in the world, but now sounded like sandpaper on my ears. I clenched my fists under the table, digging my nails into my palms until it hurt. The physical pain was the only thing keeping me from losing control. "I heard you, Elena." My voice came out hoarse, cracking. I can't believe you're serious," she sighed, rolling her eyes as if I were being too dramatic. She adjusted her hair, black, long and shiny, and crossed her legs, showing off the designer shoes she bought with the money from the joint account she drained last week. "Don't be a Puritan, Gabriel. You know how things work. I want to go back to Mexico. Monterrey is waiting for me. My family, my connections. I have a life there, and frankly, taking Sophia with me would be complicated." The word echoed in the room. Complicated. My daughter. The girl I rocked during feverish nights. The girl who learned to walk holding onto my pinky finger. To her mother, she was a complication. To understand how we reached this point in this freezing office on a Tuesday afternoon, I need to go back a bit. I need to tell you how the dream turned into this nightmare. I met Elena 7 years ago. I was in Mexico for work, overseeing the expansion of my logistics company. I was the typical hard-working guy, focused, ambitious, but grounded. I came from nothing. My parents were market stall vendors. I knew the value of every penny. Elena was the opposite, daughter of a traditional family from Monterrey that had lost its fortune but kept up. Appearances. She was magnetic, vibrant, intense. She showed me a world of colors, flavors, and passion I didn't know existed. We married in 6 months. It was a whirlwind. I brought her to the US when my company opened a branch in Miami. In the beginning, everything was a party. Elena loved the status of being an executive's wife. She loved the dinners, the clothes, the trips. But then, Sophia was born, and reality kicked down the door. Motherhood isn't glamorous. It's sleepless nights. It's crying. It's vomit on silk clothes. It's total dedication. I saw the sparkle in Elena's eyes die out day after day. She didn't look at Sophia with love. She looked at her with resentment, as if our daughter were an anchor trapping her in a life she suddenly found monotonous. I tried to compensate. I worked 10, 12 hours a day to maintain the lifestyle she demanded, and when I got home, I took on the role of both father and mother. I gave the baths. I told the stories. I put Sophia to sleep. Elena stayed on her phone, or went out with the friends she met at the club, women who, like her, seemed to value the label on a handbag more than character. The divorce was inevitable. I knew it was coming. But I never, ever imagined the war she would wage. When she filed for divorce 3 months ago, the first thing she said was, "I want full custody, and I'm taking Sophia to Mexico." My world stopped. Her lawyer claimed I worked too much, that I was an absent father. Lies. All dirty. Lies. But the system is sometimes blind. I spent my savings on lawyers. I sold my car. I refinanced the house. I was willing to sleep on the street if I had to, but I wouldn't let her take my daughter to another country, far from me, to be raised by nannies, while Elena lived her single life in disguise. The legal battle was dragging on. I was exhausted, emotionally destroyed, financially broken. And then, last night, I got the call. not from her lawyer, but from her. Gabriel, we need to talk. No lawyers, just us. I have a proposal to end this tomorrow. And here we are, in my lawyer's empty office, which she asked to use as neutral ground. I looked at her again. The coldness in her eyes gave me chills. You said you want to go to Monterey. I resumed the conversation, trying to keep my voice steady, and that taking Sophia would be complicated. So, what are you suggesting, Elena? She smiled. That smile that once made me fall in love now looked like the smile of a shark smelling blood. She opened her crocodile leather bag, took out a manila envelope, slid it across the table until it stopped in front of me. Open it, she ordered. My hands were shaking when I picked up the envelope. I didn't know what to expect. Forged, compromising photos, relinquishment documents. I opened the metal clasp, pulled the paper out. It wasn't a legal document. It was a simple spreadsheet with numbers, travel expenses, relocation costs, purchase of an apartment in a prime area of Monterey, a new car, and a lifetime pension for her. At the bottom of the page, there was a number in bold, a total value, $250,000, cash, plus $5,000 a month for the next 10 years. I looked at the number, confused. Then I looked at her. What is this? I asked, feeling my stomach turn. Eleanor leaned forward, lowering her voice as if telling me an intimate secret. It's the price, Gabriel. Price for what? She stared at me deeply, unblinking. It's the price of my absence. I went mute. The air seemed to vanish from the room. You pay me this, she continued, pointing to the paper with a perfectly manicured nail, and I sign full custody over to you. Now, today. I take the first plane to Mexico tomorrow morning, and you never have to look at my face again. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. You are, I stammered, bile rising in my throat. You are selling our daughter? Eleanor let out a short, dry, humorless laugh. Don't be dramatic, darling. I'm selling your peace and my freedom. Sophia, well, let's be honest, Gabriel. She always liked you more. I don't have patience. I'm young. I'm beautiful. I have a life ahead of me. A child right now just gets in my way. She said it with the naturalness of someone talking about the weather. A child just gets in my way. My daughter, my blood, the reason for my existence. She was just an obstacle in Elena's quest for fun and status. I looked at that paper again. $250,000. I didn't have that money. I was in debt up to my neck because of the lawyers I hired to fight her. But there was the offer, the way out, the chance to save Sophia from a mother who clearly didn't love her. But it was also a trap. And if I don't pay? I asked, my voice coming out in a dangerous whisper. Eleanor's expression changed. The smile vanished. Her eyes grew dark. She leaned back in the chair and crossed her arms. If you don't pay, Gabriel, I will destroy you. I will allege abuse. I will invent stories that will make you look like a monster. The system protects the mother, remember? I will get custody, and I will take Sophia to Mexico. She paused dramatically. And when we get there, I will put her in a cheap boarding school. I will visit her once a year, and I will ensure she grows up hating you, thinking her father abandoned her. The hate I felt in that moment was something I had never experienced before. It was a white, blinding heat. I wanted to leap over the table, but I thought of Sophia, of her smile. You have 24 hours, Elena said, standing up. Get the money, sell the house, sell a kidney, beg. I don't care. Tomorrow at noon I want the transfer, or Sophia boards the plane with me next week. She grabbed her bag and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she looked over her shoulder. Oh, and Gabriel, don't try to record this or use it against me. My lawyer will say it was a financial settlement. Proposal misinterpreted by an unstable ex-husband. No one will believe you. The door slammed. Silence returned to the office. But now the silence was screaming. I was alone, with a paper on the table worth my daughter's life, and I didn't have a cent in my pocket. I needed a miracle, or I needed to do something desperate. I walked out of the office building like a sleepwalker. The Miami sun was scorching, that kind of humid heat that makes your shirt stick to your back in seconds. But I felt cold, a cold that came from within, from my bones. I got into my car, a rented sedan because my SUV was sold last month, to pay the second installment of legal fees. I closed the door, and the sound of the city was muffled. I put my hands on the steering wheel and rested my forehead on them. I took a deep breath, trying to pull in air, but it felt like my lungs had shrunk. 1, 2, 3 seconds, and then I screamed. A guttural, animal scream that scratched my throat. I punched the steering wheel until the horn blared, startling an old lady walking on the sidewalk. I was cornered. $250,000. It was a fortune. Converted into my despair, it was incalculable. I grabbed my phone and opened the banking app. The balance shone on the screen with a mocking light. $4,320. It was all that was left. Money for the rent of my tiny apartment and food for the month. I had 24 hours to turn $4,000 into $250,000. I started the car. My hands were shaking so much it took me 3 tries to get the key in the ignition. I needed to attempt the impossible. My first stop was the bank where I'd had a business account for 5 years. The manager, Mr. Henderson, attended to me. He knew me. He knew my story, how I built my logistics company from scratch. But banks don't have emotional memory. They have risk algorithms. "Gabriel," he said, nervously fidgeting with his pen, "your company has been stagnant for 6 months due to the divorce proceedings. Your personal accounts are in the red. You have no collateral. The house is already refinanced. It's a life or death emergency, Henderson," I pleaded, hating the pathetic tone of my voice. "I'll sign any interest rate. Anything." "I'm sorry. The system has frozen your credit. There is nothing I can do." I left the branch with the bitter taste of rejection in my mouth. Time was running out. It was already 2 in the afternoon. I drove aimlessly for a few minutes. The air, conditioner on max, trying to dry the cold sweat on my forehead. I thought about friends, the ones who came to barbecues at my house with the pool, the ones who drank my imported whiskey and praised my business vision. I called Marcos, a Brazilian who made a fortune in real estate in Florida. I helped him close a huge contract 2 years ago. "Gabriel, my brother." His voice was cheerful. I cut the pleasantries. "Marcos, I need a favor. A big favor. I need a loan. Short term. I'll pay high. Interest." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. "Man, damn. You caught me at a bad time. I just invested everything in a condo in Orlando. I'm cash poor, you understand?" Lie. I knew it was a lie. He posted photos on a yacht yesterday on Instagram. "It's for my daughter, Marcos." "I'm sorry, Gabriel. Things are tough for everyone." He hung up. One by one, I called 3, 4, 5 friends. The excuses varied, but the result was the same. Nobody bets on a losing horse. And, in their eyes, I, Gabriel, the successful businessman, had become a toxic risk. The divorce had stained my reputation. No one wanted to get involved in the mud. Afternoon fell, and the night arrived, bringing a tropical storm. The rain beat hard against the windshield as I drove home. Not the house where I lived with Elena. That one was empty, waiting to be sold to divide assets. I was living in a 1-bedroom flat close to Sophia's school. I entered the dark apartment. The nanny, Donna Maria, was in the living room watching TV quietly. "Is she asleep?" I asked, tossing the keys on the table. "Yes, Mr. Gabriel. She asked for you. She said she wanted Daddy to read the dragon story." I felt a pang in my chest. One more failure for my list. "Thank you, Maria. You can go rest." I went to Sophia's room. The door was ajar. The hallway light illuminated her face. She was sleeping, hugging a dingy teddy bear I gave her when she was 2. Her hair was spread over the pillow. Black hair, just like her. Mother's. But the nose, The nose was mine. I knelt beside the bed. The smell of talcum powder and innocence invaded my nostrils, and that was where I broke. The tears came down, hot, silent. I imagined this empty bed. I imagined her in a boarding school in Mexico, crying at night, calling for me, and no one answering. I imagined Elena spending the money that should be Sophia's future on handbags and trips, while my daughter grew up thinking I didn't love her enough to fight. I lightly stroked her forehead. "I won't let it happen," I whispered. "I promise, sweetie. Even if I have to sell my soul." Sell my soul. The phrase echoed in my mind. I stood up slowly and went to the living room. I poured a glass of water, but my hands were shaking so much I spilled half of it on the counter. I had something. There was still one thing left, the only thing Elena couldn't take from me because it was in the name of a separate holding company. My company. G Logistics, not the company bank. Account which was empty, but the operation, the client portfolio, the future contracts, the tracking software I developed that was the best in the market. It was my life's work, 10 years of blood and sweat. There was a man who had coveted it for years. Carlos Viana, my biggest competitor, a man without scruples, known for swallowing smaller companies and firing all the employees just to keep the technology. I swore 3 years ago, in a tense meeting, that I would never sell to him. I called him a vulture to his face, but vultures have money, and I had a carcass to sell. I looked at the clock, 9:30 p.m. Carlos would still be awake. Men like him don't sleep. They wait. I grabbed my phone. His number was still in my contacts, saved as never answer. My finger hovered over the call button. If I did this, I would be throwing away my legacy. I would lose my source of income. I would see my loyal employees fired. I would be a nobody professionally. But then I looked at the closed door of Sophia's room. Legacy isn't a company. Legacy is a child. I pressed the button. It rang once, twice. "Gabriel." Carlos's voice was surprised, mixed with an amused arrogance. "To what do I owe the honor at this hour? I heard you're going through turbulence." I swallowed my pride. It went down tearing like crushed glass. "Carlos, I want to sell." There was silence on the other end. I could imagine his smile widening. "Sell what, exactly?" "Everything. G Logistics, the software, the client. List 100% of the shares." I heard the sound of a glass hitting a table. He was interested. "Interesting. But you know the market is aware of your situation, Gabriel. The price isn't the same as 3 years ago. You are desperate." "I know," I replied, closing my eyes. "I don't want a negotiation, Carlos. I have a price. Take it or leave it. And I need the money in my account tomorrow by 10 a.m. Carlos laughed, a dry laugh. "Tomorrow? That's impossible. Bureaucracy, lawyers. You have a slush fund, Carlos. You have offshore reserves. I know how you operate. You make the international transfer, I sign a placeholder contract now, and we make it official later." "And what is the price for this madness?" he asked, his voice getting serious. "My company was worth, in a fair valuation, about $2 million. Even in a crisis it would be worth $1 million easily. But I didn't have time for fair. I needed immediate. $300,000, I said. There was a long pause. I was selling my life for 15% of its value. 300,000, Carlos sounded incredulous. "You're giving me the company as a gift, Gabriel. What happened? Loan sharks, drugs." "Take it or leave it, Carlos. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., or I sell to the Chinese who called me last week." It was a bluff. There were no Chinese. There was only the abyss. "Be at my office at 8 a.m., Carlos said. "Bring the access tokens and the ledgers. If everything is right, you walk out with the money." He hung up. I let out the air I didn't even know I was holding. I had done it, but I didn't feel relief. I felt nausea. I had just destroyed my career. Tomorrow I would be unemployed, a bankrupt man who sold his empire for peanuts. But I would have Sophia. I went to the window and looked at the rain. Tomorrow would be the longest day of my life. I would have to face Carlos and his arrogance. Then I would have to face Elena and hand over the money. But something told me it wouldn't be that simple. Elena was greedy. What if she wanted more? What if the money wasn't enough? I needed to prepare. I went to my old document briefcase, where I kept some old things from the time Elena and I met in Mexico. Letters, photos. I started rummaging through the papers. If I was going into the lion's den, I couldn't go with just money. I needed insurance. And in the middle of an old photo album, hidden behind a picture of us in Tulum, I found something I had completely forgotten about. A small, silver USB drive. Memories came back like a lightning bolt. 3 years ago, a party at Elena's brother's house in Monterey. Her brother, a dangerous guy, asked me to hold on to it. Just for safety, brother-in-law. If something happens to me, you know what to do. Her brother was arrested 6 months later. I never knew what was on it, and with the rush of life, the USB drive was forgotten. I picked up the small metal object. I went to my laptop and plugged it in. The screen flickered. A folder opened. My eyes widened as I opened the files. They weren't family photos. They were records, names, bank accounts, and recorded conversations. Conversations involving Elena's family in schemes much larger than I imagined. And in the middle of one of the audio files, I heard her voice. Elena's voice, negotiating something illegal. My heart raced. I had just sold my company to get the ransom money, but now I had a nuclear weapon in my hands. The question was, did I have the courage to use it? This could put me and Sophia in real danger, but looking at that money on the computer screen and thinking of her cynical smile, I knew the game had changed. Tomorrow, Elena wouldn't just meet a defeated ex-husband. She would meet a father willing to do anything. I closed the laptop. The war was just beginning. The pen felt like it weighed a ton in my hand. I was sitting in the glass meeting room of Carlos Viana. The air conditioning was so cold it felt like a morgue. In a way it was. I was there to sign the death certificate of my professional life. Carlos was on the other side of the table sipping an espresso, with that smirk I wanted to rip off with a punch. "Are you sure about this, Gabriel?" he asked, feigning concern. "Once you sign, G Logistics is mine. The building, the trucks, the software, and your employees answer to me." I swallowed hard. The taste of bile was in my throat. I thought of Sophia, of her smile when I got home. "Is the money ready?" I asked, ignoring the taunt. Carlos slid a tablet in my direction. "The international transfer is already set up, $300,000. As soon as the ink touches the paper, I press send." I didn't hesitate anymore. If I thought for one more second, I would back out. I signed. The sound of the pen scratching the paper was the only noise in the room. Scritch, scratch, scritch. I handed over the document. Carlos smiled, a wide and predatory smile. He tapped the tablet screen. "Done. It was a pleasure doing business with you, Gabriel, and good luck in the unemployment line." My phone vibrated in my pocket. The bank notification. Deposit received, $300,000. I stood up without saying a word. I didn't shake his hand. I didn't look back. I walked out of that building feeling a nauseating mix of relief and total failure. I was a rich man for 10 minutes, only to become poor again soon. I ran to the bank. I withdrew $50,000 to ensure my survival and Sophia's for the coming months, and left exactly $250,000 in the account for the transfer. It was 11:45 a.m. The meeting with Elena was at noon. I drove to my lawyer's office. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. In my jacket pocket, the USB drive burned against my chest. I had the money, but money didn't guarantee she wouldn't come back in 6 months asking for more. People like Elena are black holes. They suck everything around them until nothing is left. I needed to ensure this would be the final chapter. I entered the conference room. Elena was already there. This time she was accompanied by her lawyer, a guy with a weasel face named Dr. Arango. She looked at her wristwatch, impatient. "You're 2 minutes late," she said, without even greeting me. "I hope you brought good news. Or should I call the airline?" I sat down in front of her. I put my phone on the table, screen facing down. My lawyer, Dr. Soares, seemed tense. He didn't know about the side financial deal. He thought we were there to sign a last-minute amicable custody agreement. "I have what you asked for," I said, staring straight into her eyes. Elena's eyes sparkled, pure greed. "Great," she smiled. "Then let's get this over with. I have a flight at 5. Her lawyer pushed a stack of papers toward me. "This is the term of total relinquishment of custody and parental rights by Ms. Elena," explained the lawyer. "She yields full and exclusive custody of the minor Sophia to the father Gabriel. In exchange, you withdraw any parental alienation lawsuits and, well, we agree to the personal terms discussed in private." I picked up the document. I read every line. It was all there. My daughter's freedom was printed in black and white. "Sign it," I told Elena. She laughed. "The money first, darling. I wasn't born yesterday." I took a deep breath. I grabbed my phone, opened the banking app in front of her. Here it is, $250,000. The confirm button is one touch away. She craned her neck, checking the balance. "Very well." She took the gold Mont Blanc pen from her purse and signed the document with flourishes, as if she were giving an autograph. Her lawyer stamped it. My lawyer checked it. "It is legally binding," said my lawyer, surprised by the speed. Elena held out her open hand toward me, demanding payment. "Your turn, Gabriel. Pay up." I looked at her. I looked at that woman I once swore to love, in sickness and in health. I pressed confirm. Seconds later, her phone beeped. She checked the account. Her smile widened so much it looked like her face would tear. "Perfect," she said, standing up and smoothing her dress. "It was a pleasure, Gabriel. Take good care of the brat. Maybe I'll send a postcard at Christmas." She turned her back to leave. "Wait," I said. My voice came out low but authoritative. Elena stopped and turned around, hand already on the doorknob. "What is it now? The money is already there. No refunds." I stood up slowly. I took the USB drive out of my pocket and placed it gently on the mahogany table. The metallic sound echoed in the silent room. Elena looked at the object, frowned. "What is this? A parting gift? Photos of our honeymoon?" she mocked. "No," I replied. "It's the life insurance policy for my peace." She let out a nervous laugh. "What are you talking about?" I walked to my lawyer's laptop, which was connected to the room's sound system for video conferences. I plugged in the USB drive. Elena took a step forward, curiosity turning into apprehension. "Gabriel, I don't have time for your games." I clicked on the audio file. Her voice filled the room. Loud, clear, unmistakable. "Don't worry, Mano. The laundering money will go through the art gallery account. No one will suspect. Gabriel is an idiot. He never looks at the detailed statements." The recording continued. It spoke of accounts in Panama. It spoke of bribing Mexican officials. It spoke names of cartels. Eleanor's face lost color. Instantly, the Miami tan disappeared, leaving a pale mask of terror. Her lawyer widened his eyes and started packing his papers into his briefcase quickly. "What is this?" she screamed, her voice shrill. "Turn that off! That's fake! It's edited!" I paused the audio. The room fell into a deadly silence. "Do you recognize that voice, Elena?" I asked calmly. "And do you recognize the bank details in the PDF files in this folder? Accounts in your name?" She was shaking, visibly shaking. Where did you get this?" she whispered. "Your brother, the one you left to rot in jail while spending the family money. He was far-sighted." I walked around the table and stopped in front of her. Now the power dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the broken, desperate ex-husband anymore. I was the judge. "You have your money, Elena," I said, cold as ice. $250,000, the price of our daughter." I pointed to the door. "But if you come back, if you send a message, if you try to see Sophia, if you even think about stepping foot in the United States again," I leaned in close to her ear. "I send this to the federal police, to Interpol, and to your brother's old associates who are looking for this money." She swallowed hard. The fear in her eyes was genuine. She knew those associates didn't use lawyers to solve problems. "You wouldn't do that," she stammered. "I am your daughter's mother. You stopped being a mother the moment you put a price tag on." Her forehead. She looked at her lawyer for help. The lawyer raised his hands. "Ms. Elena, if this is true, I cannot be involved in international criminal matters. Our contract ends here." He left the room. Elena was alone. She looked at the virtual check in her account. Then she looked at me. There was hate in her gaze, but there was more fear. "You won," she hissed. "Keep the girl. I hope you rot together." She spun on her heels and left, slamming the door. I stood there, frozen. Silence. Returned. My lawyer, Dr. Suarez, who had watched everything jaw-dropped, finally spoke. "Gabriel, was that real?" I pulled the USB drive from the computer and put it in my pocket. "What matters, doctor, is that she believed it was." My legs gave out. I fell into the chair, exhausted. It was over. I was broke, no company, no career. But I had the signed paper on the table. Sophia was mine, only mine. I left the office, and the sun seemed to shine differently. I got in the car and drove straight to her school. I needed to see her, need to hug her, but life sometimes has a cruel sense of humor. As I drove, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, thinking it might be Eleanor with another threat. "Hello? Mr. Gabriel? This is from Sunshine Elementary School." My heart stopped for a second. "Yes, it's me. Did something happen to Sophia?" The principal's voice on the other end was trembling. "Mr. Gabriel, you need to come here right now." "What happened? Is she hurt?" "No, sir. It's just that a woman came to pick her up 20 minutes ago. She showed documents and said she was the mother. The girl was crying, didn't want to go, but the woman took her by force into a black car." The phone slipped from my hand and fell to the car floor. The world spun. Elena. She had left the office 30 minutes ago. She took the money, signed the paper, and went straight to the school. She wasn't going to honor the deal. She was going to take the money and my daughter. I stomped on the accelerator. The car engine roared. I wasn't a civilized man anymore. I was a father hunting someone who stole his young, and I was going to stop her, or I was going to die trying. The speedometer read 140 kilometers per hour. I was weaving through traffic on I-95 like a madman. Horns blared around me, trails of sound I barely registered. My focus was on a single blinking dot on my phone screen, mounted to the car's dashboard. Sophia's GPS watch. Thank God I had put that watch on her this morning. "To count steps," I said. But deep down, it was the paranoia of a father who knew he was at war. The blue dot was moving fast, heading south. Miami International Airport. Elena wasn't going home to pack. She was fleeing with the clothes on her back, the money in her account, and my daughter as a trophy. I called the police on speakerphone. 911. "What is your emergency?" "Kidnapping. My ex-wife took my daughter from school without authorization. I have legal custody signed today. I'm pursuing the vehicle on I-95. Sir, calm down. What is the license plate and make of the car?" I dictated the plate number the school principal had written down. A rented black SUV. "We are dispatching units, sir. Do not try to intercept the vehicle. It is dangerous." I hung up. "Do not try to intercept." They didn't understand. If she got through airport security, if she got on a private plane, jurisdiction ended. I would lose Sophia forever in the corrupt labyrinths. Her family controlled in Mexico. Traffic ahead began to stop. The famous Miami rush hour. The sea of red brake lights lit up like a warning sign. The dot on the GPS stopped about 500 meters in front of me. I braked hard, the car skidding and stopping inches from a truck. I looked through the windshield. Everything was gridlocked, a monster traffic jam. I couldn't wait. I unbuckled my seatbelt, opened the door, and started running. I ran along the shoulder, ignoring the screams of angry drivers. Sweat ran down into my eyes, stinging. My breathing was a painful wheeze. I jumped over concrete barriers, dodged motorcycles. 500 meters, 400. I spotted the black SUV. It was stuck in the middle lane, boxed in by 2 delivery trucks. I saw Elena's silhouette in the driver's seat. She was banging on the steering wheel, furious at the traffic. In the back seat, I saw a small head, Sophia. A wave of adrenaline gave me strength I didn't know I had. I reached the car. Elena saw me in the rear-view mirror. Her eyes widened in panic. She locked the doors immediately. I banged on the driver's window with a closed fist. "Open this door!" I screamed. "Open it now!" Eleanor was screaming something from inside, but the glass was soundproof. She shifted into reverse, trying to maneuver, but hit the bumper of the car behind her. I looked at the back seat. Sophia was crying, curled up, hugging her backpack. "Daddy!" I could read on her lips. The sight of my daughter's fear made my blood boil. I pointed a finger at Elena through the glass and held up my phone with the other hand. I showed the photo of the USB drive. She froze. I screamed so she could hear me through the glass. "The police are 2 minutes away. If they catch you with Sophia, it's federal kidnapping. You go to prison here, Elena, and in an American prison your brother's money is worth nothing." She looked at the rearview mirror. Sirens could already be heard in the distance, cutting through the heavy afternoon air. Elena had a choice: keep the daughter and go to jail, losing the money and her freedom, or flee with the money and leave the cargo behind. I saw the gears turning in her head. I saw the exact moment selfishness won. She unlocked the doors. I ran to the back door and ripped it open. Sophia jumped onto my neck before I could even get in. She was shaking like a leaf. "Daddy, I want to go home." "I got you, baby. I got you." I pulled her out of the car, hugging her so tight. I was afraid of hurting her. Elena rolled down the passenger window just a crack. "Keep her," she shouted, her voice full of venom. "This isn't over, Gabriel." Traffic ahead started to move slowly. She stomped on the gas, throwing the car onto the shoulder and disappearing into the confusion of metal and fumes, fleeing toward the airport. I could have noted the license plate again, could have continued the pursuit to see her arrested, but I looked at the small arms around my neck. I had what mattered. I fell to my knees on the hot asphalt, crying together with my daughter, while the police sirens arrived all around us. 6 months later, the smell of fresh coffee invaded the small apartment. It wasn't the mansion in Coral Gables. No pool, no ocean view. It was a 2-bedroom apartment in a middle-class neighborhood, far from the glamour of Miami Beach. But it had something the mansion never had: peace. I'm in the kitchen, making pancakes. It's Saturday morning. "Daddy, the dragon lost its wing." Sophia comes running into the kitchen, holding a broken toy. I smile, wipe my hands on my apron, and crouch down. "Let's fix it, my love. Daddy fixes everything." I grab the superglue. While I glue the dragon's wing, I think about how life has turned around. Carlos Viana kept his word. He kept my company. He turned it into an even bigger empire. Sometimes I see news about G Logistics on TV and feel a pang of nostalgia. That was my professional legacy. But the money from the sale, the $300,000, is gone. 250 went to Elena. The other 50 I used to pay debts and keep us going these first few months. Now I work as an operations manager at a small transport company. I earn a tenth of what I used to. I clock in at 8, leave at 5. I don't have a brand new car anymore. I drive a used Honda Civic. My rich friends disappeared. No one calls me for yacht parties. But you know the truth? I have never been so rich. Every night I tuck Sophia into bed. I read the full story. I don't need to check emails during dinner. And Elena? Well, karma is a curious thing. 2 weeks after she fled, I received a notification from my lawyer. Elena was detained at the border of Spain with a suitcase full of undeclared cash. It seems her brother's friends found her before the police did. She is facing lawsuits in 3 countries. The money I paid, confiscated by authorities. Sophia's custody is mine, irrevocable and permanent. I finish gluing the dragon's wing and hand it to Sophia. All done, flying again. She gives me a kiss on the cheek, that loud, sincere kiss that is worth more than any bank account in Switzerland. "I love you, Daddy." "I love you too, sweetie." I go to the small balcony. The sun is rising. I lost my status. I lost my company. I lost my assets. But I gained my soul back. And I learned the most expensive lesson of my life. You can buy houses, cars, and silence, but the love of a child, that is priceless. And the peace of laying your head on the pillow knowing you did the right thing, that is true success. I take a sip of the cheap coffee. It tastes like victory.